Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today. My name is Katrin Ribant. I'm the CSO and one of the co-founders, that's me, from Datorama, a company that essentially is an end-to-end marketing analytics platform. And so what I'm going to talk to you about today is the challenges that the marketing department faces when it comes to understanding how they're doing across all of their marketing activities. And hopefully, through kind of some of those challenges, we'll be able to touch some of the challenges that you as business users are facing as well when you are handling data, and some of the challenges that you as technology specialists are facing when you are talking to business users who are facing all of these challenges with analyzing data. So just a brief word about Datorama. We're about 4 years old. We raised 50 million in funding from Lightspeed, Marker, and Innovation Endeavor. We've got about 160 people now and growing fast, and we're headquartered in New York. So these are a few bullet points from Gartner that are kind of talking about why is the marketing's department life so hard today. That's really kind of stems from essentially a trend of how do we as customers, you and all of us, interact with brands and have new choices today about how we can look for information about a brand, how we can exchange information about a brand, how we can buy with a brand. And that essentially creates challenges for the marketer across, one, keeping my experience and your experience differentiated because we're different people, and coherent for me when I interact with your brand, as well as for you when you interact with the same brand. And for that, essentially, what we're looking at is something like this. So the marketer today is faced with this type of complexity, and there's really only so much complexity you can put on a two-dimensional slide. So I will add some color to this slide as to what additional levels of complexity there are here. But essentially, the marketer is piloting a hyper-complex delivery machine, and they're focused on two main kind of areas.
My laptop before?
Sorry. They're focused on two main areas. How can I optimize this machine in order to make more with the money I have as a marketer? And how can I understand better what impact I have on the business and help the business push whatever product lines or services we need to kind of scale at a certain moment in time? Now, where do we have complexity that's not on this slide? First of all, the marketer is not alone. It's generally a department. Even in a smaller company, it's generally more than one person. And that department has specializations in different channels, different aspects of the activity. All of this execution is not done by one person or department. It's generally done by a set of partners where execution gets outsourced. That can be media agency, it can be consultancies, it can be partially handled in-house. And that just multiplies the number of people who are in some way involved in executing on this machine, hence producing the data that is going to help the marketer at the top understand how is all of this performing. And so we have really two main challenges here. The first challenge is of course, you see all of these execution platforms here, and that can be ad servers, search engine management platforms, social networks, TV, radio, out of home, email, etc. All of those execution platforms need to be connected together, so the data needs to be extracted and integrated. So there is one challenge around connecting to the data source and actually integrating the data source. But the second challenge, which is a little bit more complex, if you kind of want to believe that, is the harmonization of the data across all of those platforms. So this data is really only useful to me as a marketer or a business user if I can get insights out of it. Insights come from the ability to cut the data in different blocks of information that are relevant to me. As a marketer, to me, mostly what will be relevant is product, business line, geography, channel. Now, I have to find that across all of these. And so the way the information comes, and I'm sure this is where we probably become, kind of closer to aspects of data management that you find in every single business line and technology project, is that because I have so many people involved in producing and operating this delivery machine, every single one of them will operate one of the delivery machines and input some of the information slightly differently. So if I take my base unit, which is I'm doing a marketing campaign and I'm launching product line ABC, a line of clothing, for example. In the UK, maybe my campaigns will have a form that will be something like this. So there will be kind of input in all of these platforms in the form of the brand, the product, the country, in the form of an ISO 2-digit code. And in every single country, it may be a little bit different. It can also be different platform by platform. For example, in the US, maybe there is no country. And so people just assume, that this is going to be the US because it has its own set of delivery platforms. So I need to know that everything that comes from this set of delivery platforms is actually the US. Now, the task of extracting all of that information, putting it together, and providing the ability to cut all of the performance metrics by those kinds of dimensions is really a huge challenge when it comes to this kind of complexity. And so that's where essentially the dynamic nature of this process comes in play. Because so this is a kind of typical marketing stack for a marketer. And you see we have several platforms that are used at several stages of the funnel, with obviously different KPIs to measure why are we successful in awareness versus why are we successful in engagement or in interaction, or obviously in sales. So there's another level where for every single platform, every single country, every single product, I may have different sets of metrics and KPIs that I will need to measure across the purchase funnel. Now, for this task, which is recognized as being obviously a challenge across data management across the board, the traditional approach really doesn't work that well. And rather than that kind of going through this traditional BI process, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, step by step, what I'd like to highlight here is how not adapted to marketing this is. Because we've seen from my previous slides that the marketer, and again, I'm sure this is going to be familiar to many business users, the marketer doesn't know what the data looks like until they actually get to see it. Because the person who analyzes the data is rarely the person who's responsible for putting the data into the platform that will produce it. So they don't actually really know where you find product in the UK, in the campaigns in the UK, or where you find the business line in the campaigns in Poland. Which means that this process, which is designed to support a waterfall type of implementation, where you go to the business kind of people and you ask, okay, so what do you want to do? Could you please specify what you would like to get out of these projects and what kind of insights you would like to go through? What does your data look like? What are the relationships? What are the sources, etc.? The answers to most of that is we don't really know, because we won't know until we actually understand what we have here in terms of data and what we can actually extract. So there is a need for an agility today that isn't supported by this approach, which is essentially the approach of cobbling together several systems, an ETL tool, a database, a BI tool, etc., and going through a process of implementation where you'll build a relatively fixed kind of set of integrations, a data model that it will be predefined, and then we'll present some insights. And at that point, generally, in most of the projects that I have been involved in, if you do something like this, by the time that you have finished the specifications, everything or half of what's in the specifications has already changed. So there's a need for an approach that is kind of slightly different here. And if you do this manually, obviously you're going to be very limited in what you can do. So the view here in the vision is, if you are operating a hyper-complex delivery machine where you would like to be able to know at any moment in time, how much did I plan to spend in any channel, in any country, in any product? How am I pacing against that? Do I have some dry powder left here or not? Or am I spending over? How am I doing in terms of my business results? And where should I shift my budget in order to impact the business results in the way I want to impact them? So that's real-time agility control. So what the approach that we've taken at Datorama is, of course, build all of this in an end-to-end platform that allows you to go from connectivity to the application. But more specifically, we've taken the approach of powering human decision-making with machine learning. So specifically, in the two areas where we have these challenges, so integration and data harmonization, is where we've built pieces of technology that allow the citizen analyst, so really the business user, to be in control of how they integrate data, how they harmonize data, and how they can kind of go through that iterative process of integrating data, looking at it, saying, oh, that doesn't quite look like what I was expecting. So we'll kind of adapt how we extract this and that type of dimension out of this data and how we'll compute these KPIs. And we'll just reshuffle and redo that in a very, very fast cycle, which allows to essentially kind of wrap your head around these two challenges, which are, one, the combination of the diversity of the data sources. And the diversity, I mean, in terms of data sources, as well in terms of data points in the data sources, and the need to be able to iteratively kind of integrate and harmonize that data, and the need to be able, as a business user, as a citizen analyst, to have a certain level of control over that, because ultimately, by the time you understand what is in your data, your campaign may be over. You'll be maybe in the next cycle already. One of these platforms or several of these platforms may be swapped for different platforms. And you need to be able to keep your historical data and performance, regardless of what you are using in the underlying layer of execution, in order to be able to understand at any moment how you're doing and which levers you can pull. So this, this utilization of machine learning to assist essentially the decision maker in terms of how to integrate the data and how to harmonize the data works with a system of crowdsourcing. So what we do is we have obviously users every day, thousands of users who integrate data in our system, and those users teach our system how to integrate data from Facebook, from Google, from DoubleClick, et cetera, et cetera. How do you integrate that? And what do you, as a business user, expect to get together and to map between those data sources? So because the system is informed by thousands of users doing that every day, the suggestions that it does to you as a business user as to how you could integrate this data into Datorama faster and better obviously grow over time and help our users do this agile process a lot faster. Now, we plan to take this approach further into insights over the course of next year and kind of bring an ability to crowdsource the same type of machine learning to help marketers understand across the complexity of KPIs that they have in their platforms how to separate signal from noise. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just one question from You get the mic. So many interesting things. So the bit at the end around machine learning across all customers. So that's this concept that at least we VCs like to talk about, which is the data network effect, where the algorithm is getting smarter across all the customer base. So I love the theory of it. The question is always whether the underlying customers are happy with sort of teaching the system for the benefit of other customers. Just curious if you got any pushback on, hey, don't use my data to train your system, so that you
never, because we don't really, we don't as such use your data, right? We use your actions, and you yourself benefit from your own actions as well. So you are, integrating a first data source, and maybe it's the first time we see it. So you're doing, a whole bunch of operations, and you're mapping the data. If you have a similar data source and you integrate it a second time, probably 80% of the work will be done for you. So we've never really had any complaints from that perspective.
Yep. Great. Do we have questions? One over there. By the way, for the people in the back, if you want, there are seats up front, and you can leave whenever you want. There's no.
Thanks for the presentation. Quick question on that last slide, the machine learning step. Can you share an example, specific example, how that would be put into execution?
Not at this point in time, but hopefully next year.
All right, we had another one over there. Was it? Same question. More questions? Over here.
So I'm just curious about the space you're in. You didn't use the phrase marketing mix modeling, but that's a category that's out there. Does that describe your company, or are you something more general than that? And along the same lines, who do you bump into or compete with?
So we really are a end-to-end marketing integration platform. We are a technology company. We don't really do kind of counsel around what you should be doing, for your specific business with your ad dollars. It's just not really the business we're in. Mostly what we see in terms of competition is, if you remember the slide where I had the whole process with all the different pieces, an ETL tool, a database, et cetera, that is mostly the competitive set that we see, any or all around.
Maybe a quick word on the history of the company. I mean, it was that, as part of celebrating big data in New York. I'm just curious, how you guys started, how long you've been doing this, and who founded it with you?
Yes, so it's myself and my two partners, Effie Cohen and Ran Sarig. They spent most of their career at MediaMind. I spent a lot of my career in a media agency before that. So it was kind of a meeting of somebody who knew data marketing from a business standpoint reasonably well, I hope. And two people who were kind of very much on the technology side. And we saw an opportunity and a need in the market that was growing in terms of the number of the platforms that are used to execute by marketers. And so we decided to partner and to build a marketing integration engine that would go at it from a very different angle. The angle of essentially, I would say, embracing diversity and making it possible for somebody with next to, no actual technical knowledge, not even a notion of what it is, a data model or an ETL process, simply somebody who's an end user of the platforms that are used to execute, to be able to serve their needs largely by themselves in terms of integration and harmonization and utilization of their marketing performance data. And so we started about 4 years ago. We've been through 3 rounds of funding. We are now,
Just maybe and quickly, just the very beginning of it, like the first year. I mean, this, a lot of conversations here around, okay, how do I start? it's an entrepreneurial event as much as a data
So
event.
in the beginning, we were 3 people. We were not very good PowerPoint presentation, and what we hoped was a really good idea. We started executing very quickly. We really very quickly focused on, okay, so we have this idea. We think we know how we're going to go about it. Let's find people who are going to embark with us and help us design what this solution really needs to look like. And that, I think, is what made it possible for us to have this kind of quick and compliance kind of growth curve, is because we've been very close to results and clients from the very, very beginning.
At the very beginning, you started with a customer as opposed to building the technology and then. Okay.
Yeah, we had a very precise idea of what we wanted to do, but we looked for partners.
Cool. All right.
To
Well,
execute.
thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you.
tonight.